Hey guys, it's Matt. First off, thanks to James for bringing the movie Cube back to my attention. 1997 movie Cube. Now, I had seen it, but I hadn't seen it with, quote, our current set of eyes. And I went back to certain scenes I remember, like the compartmentalization scene, which is just incredible. It's one of the biggest truth drops in movie history. And most of this presentation is going to be about the compartmentalization scene from the movie Cube. Now, the good news about this Truth in Movies review from a reviewer that can't typically show 1 second of any movie is it's on YouTube for free right now. You know, you could just watch the whole movie without signing, just load it as a video. Surely, Matt, if it's on YouTube for free, you can show clips. I'm not so sure. I've been through this before. I'm not going to take a chance. The information here and talking it through and thinking about the different concepts far more important. Now, I'll certainly leave a link. I'll leave a link. And I'll also leave a time-stamped link to the compartmentalization scene if you want to go over and watch that scene now. Check it out for 4 or 5 minutes. Get a feel for it. And then please come back here. I think Cube presents a lot of bigger issues as well. But I definitely want to focus for at least 10 or 15-minute discussion on the compartmentalization scene. It's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. Now, guys, before getting into that, I was going to say for anybody new, but it's worth going over. For just in general, we should talk this out. Why do we look at these movies and assume when we do, not every movie, I guess the Ninja Turtles may not have a gigantic truth drop giving away the metaphysical nature of reality, but whenever, quote, we look at these movies, we do assume that there is an embedded truth that gives at least a piece of how reality operates away, and many times your role as a spiritual being inhabiting a human avatar in this reality. Why do we always assume that the director or the writer knows something that we don't, and we don't know? Okay, and there's no point in endless analysis of that. We know that the truth at the fundamental levels of reality itself comes through art. We've confirmed this 1,000 times over. Whether it be movies, nursery rhymes, songs, and in many cases, I'm speaking for a lot of you, maybe I shouldn't, but we believe that the director, writer, producer isn't even aware sometimes of the embedded truth that comes through. Matt, in a movie like Cube, they are. Maybe they are. In some cases, they may be. In some cases, they're not. But there's no reason to spend hours trying to figure out exactly what the artist knew or the songwriter knew, or what David Bowie knew. The fact is, we come out the end the same every time. The truth is there. It's some sort of a country. It's in the very fine print, or not fine print. It's in the bold print of the contract that's stamped over this reality itself. The truth must come through art, and we've confirmed it 1,000 times over. So there's no point. That's kind of the bog. It wants us spending a lot of resources figuring out how the truth got there when it doesn't matter because we know it's there. So let's not jump into that bog. And I need to reiterate that every so many months, just because people can get a little lost saying, well, what is Steven Spielberg? He has a full understanding of how every basis of how reality works. Your spiritual incarnation. No, it can flow through these artists. But anyway, we'll talk about that more as we move forward. I just don't want people to get too caught up in it. So, all right. Now, before talking about the compartmentalization scene, and if anybody doesn't want to go over and watch bits and pieces of the movie, I'll talk you through what's going on here. The concepts are very big, but the presentation of what's going on is pretty simple. In the movie, you have a group of people thrown together with a memory wipe. They know who they are, but they have no idea. It's a kind of a half memory wipe for the purposes of the movie. They don't know how they got into the cube. They don't know each other. How did you get here? I just woke up here. What were you doing before? I don't remember. The concept of the memory wipe. And it's a group of people that typically don't get along very well with each other. It presents an interesting dynamic, but they're in a square room, and as they move to other rooms through little hatches, every room, although the colors change, is exactly the same. It is very Hellraiser type in its feel. In Hellraiser, I don't think they were in a cube, but you know what I mean. And it's also very Borg from Star Trek, Borg in its feel. Each room is the same, other than color. It's very alien, and some rooms have traps. So the first person that goes in a certain room, giant spikes come out of the floor, and boom, they're done. So they have to test each room before they go. Then they're in a situation where they say, well, how many cubes are there? And they try to calculate. There could be thousands above them, thousands to the left, thousands to the right. We're completely trapped. One looks just like the other. And no food, no water, nobody giving directions over, a PA system, just people thrown together that are very different, that end up fighting with each other. And they're trying to, what your first instinct, of course, from anybody would be to find a way out, escape. They try to calculate how many rooms there are. It's larger than they thought. The rooms, they find out eventually are shifting around. So they try to move to the west end, and there has to be an end. Well, they end up right back where they started. Well, the rooms must have shifted. It's very frustrating. And yeah, there's potentially a lot bigger things being said here about the, quote, rat race of life itself. But for now, let's just focus on what I call the compartmentalization scene. And let me show you that mostly comes from this character. I believe his name is Worth. I don't think there's any real significance in the names, but I don't know. I'll think about that a little bit later. It doesn't matter for now. This is Worth, and this is Quentin, okay? These are the two guys that, guys that form the most friction. They're kind of going at it. This guy is much bigger than everybody else, and he's a police officer. So he becomes hot-headed. He becomes physically intimidating, threatening. There is a level of tension that is really unnerving. You never get the sense anybody really likes anybody. And that's part of good writing and direction, how they can create that dis-ease amongst the characters and the tension. So as they're moving through, and a few people are dying off because of traps, and there's tension, it's very, in many cases, it is predictable, screaming at each other and people losing their cool and people panicking. And let me just, before getting into the compartmentalization scene, which I'm going to do now, this movie has like a cult following today, and it seems like it was relatively low budget, and there is some really neat. It has a really neat feel for it being probably very low budget. I didn't look at the budget, but it's a shame because this movie, with high budget and mostly with high budget actors, would be incredible. I mean, just incredible. The actors are subpar. They're A minus, B plus at the best. They do a pretty good job creating the tension, but they just don't pull certain things off the way a great actor would. She's very good with mathematics in her mind. I forget her name. And she figures out there's a code or a mapping structure. Each cube has an 8-digit number, and it's the way she comes to these conclusions is very contrived. And anyway, I don't want to complain too much about the acting. Probably did the best they can with the budget they had to work with at the time. But I'm just saying it would be if you put like a Event Horizon feel on it with today's graphics and really great actors, it would be an incredible movie. I mean, there's still a cult following that thinks it's one of the best movies ever made. So the compartmentalization theme, eventually they kind of get tired of moving around A few people have died off, traps, they're not getting anywhere, going in circles, and then they just start talking amongst themselves like, what the heck is going on? This thing's alien. Aliens, and they can't they start looking outside their bookends of known reality to explain this thing. And Quentin here, he admits that he actually worked on this project. And they're like, you son of a bitch, you kept this from us? And this guy, what's his name? Quentin believes, oh, you worked on it. You know everything. You tell us all about it. He gets aggressive, and I'm not remembering exactly how it went down. But Quentin's like, I don't know anything about it. What do you mean you don't know anything about it? You worked on it. Well, yeah, I was told, or my little company, as an architect or something, designed the outer shell of the cube. Well, how many cubes are there? How does it work? He's like, I don't know. I was just told to do this one little job. This is where the compartmentalization comes in. But it goes beyond that, guys. It goes beyond what you might think, where the guy that worked on the gloves for Neil Armstrong and a buzzed cauldron, he just made the glove. He didn't know about the whole cake and a lake project where nobody got in a tuna fish can and went anywhere. He just made the glove, and then he watches on TV and he thinks his glove's on the moon. So it's compartmentalization. Nobody knows. Everybody, even the guy that made the engine, believes that the rocket went somewhere. That's typical compartmentalization. And it's a little bit first grade to explain away how you can hoax something as big as 1969, Mercury, Apollo, Gemini, a buzzed cauldron. It's the only way, there's a first grade explanation. The only way that the truth community for many years could explain that is, well, Matt, compartmentalization. There were 50,000 people working on it, but nobody knew the whole. Maybe only 10 people knew. And the guy even that made the engine thinks his rocket, and the guy that made the LEM thinks it landed, and all that stuff. Okay, but that gets us only so far. This movie, actually, we've gone farther than that. We've talked about the next level up, and for lack of better explanation, the reality itself influences people. People tune to the frequency. This movie actually goes there, which is incredible. And when I saw this, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I don't know, maybe I saw it 2.5 years ago. I don't remember. I probably mentioned on the channel at some point, but I didn't see it the way I saw it when I looked at these scenes yesterday. And that just proves, how much we've grown and expanded our breadth of understanding in the last 2 years has been off the charts, and that's why we wouldn't go back. So Quentin says, yeah, I worked on it. I designed the shell. So everybody thinks he must know everything about it. And he's like, no, I just was, he's like, well, who is your employer? He's like, I don't know. I don't know. I just was given a job to do. They paid us a lot of money. It was a great job. I designed the shell. I didn't ask questions about what was going to go in it and who's going to go in it or how many rooms or whatever the inside was going to be. And the theme comes out of that's how all of society works. Given a task, if it pays well, you just keep your head down and your mouth shut. So others in the group start to, let me see if I can show you some other characters. There's not too many great pictures here. Others in the group, she does chime in. She's the closest thing to a conspiracy theorist here. Others in the group start to chime in, and she says, the brain, that's right, the brain behind it never comes out in the open. Whatever is behind this thing, you worked on one part, a guy in Chicago worked on another part, a girl in San Diego worked on another part, you designed the shell. The brain of it never comes out in the open. And she presents the example of, somebody makes a little tiny part in Duluth, a little tiny part, but that's the critical part or the last assembly part for some mega mass destruction weapon that's going to be used to kill millions and millions of people. And the person that designs the little tiny part doesn't even know where it's going. As far as they know, they think it's going in a vacuum cleaner. Now, she doesn't say it. That's just the way I put it. But that's what she's trying to express. Somebody comes forth and says, yet nobody's in charge. It's a headless illusion. I think it's Worth. Worth says nobody's in charge. You want to point to some bad guy somewhere. It's the same themes we've been talking about. It's the headless illusion of a master plan. Yeah, I remember what he says now. He says there's no big brother watching all the time, and if this compartmentalization scene, from our perspective, we'd like to expand it out. We'd love these characters to keep going for 20 minutes. But, most people, most popcorn crunchers watching the movie, they don't care too much about what we care about. So they keep the scene very short. But the theme comes out, like we've talked about, there is no police lineup. There is nothing to point at. He calls it a headless there's an illusion of a master plan. And it's exactly the same concept of, let me back up. He says it's an illusion of a master plan. Nobody's in charge. There's no grand conspiracy, I think he says. It just comes together. He doesn't say reality itself, but that's the way we would interpret it. It's very similar to what I've talked about. Bring in the police lineup. There's no bad guy to point at in this reality. That's why the reality itself gives you so many bad guys. Oh, bring out the police. I'll do 30 seconds for anybody. You've all heard this a million times. Bring out who's coming? Literally, like you're just the little kid from Signs behind the one-way mirror. And they can't see me in here? No, it's safe. It's safe. They can't see me. Bring out the police lineup. Who's first? Oh, here's an Archon. Was it him, little kid? No, he doesn't look like it was him. Here's the Anunnaki. Bring him out. And all line him up. The Reptilians, bring them out. The Nephilim, bring in all the bad characters from all the different religions. Bring in all the bad characters from the that we've told control the secret societies, like bring out the Rothschilds and bring out every bad guy, and then you can just point to. We should be able to pick out the bad guy by now, as the little kid from Signs, Signs, not Signs, The Sixth Sense. I guess there's a little kid in both of them. The little kid from The Sixth Sense standing behind the one-way mirror. Well, I can't really, it's all fuzzy. You can't point at the bad guy here in this reality. Because if you could, we would have been able to point at it a long time ago. That's exactly what this movie expresses. There's no grand conspiracy. It's headless. It's the illusion of a master plan. Yeah, absolutely. Now, we do, I don't want to stray too much, but, this is the pretty high-level concepts we've been discussing here for the last year and a half, 2 years or so. I guess the nobody to point at, the police lineup example, I guess I've been putting out for about 2.5 years. But pretty high-level stuff. I mean, how many people see what we see? Does your Aunt Ginny see what we see? Does your cousin? So you think, well, how does a concept like this get into Cube? The director or the writer had to know something. They must have connections or be bred in a secret society. Again, not necessarily. Who knows what the reality sees to it that the truth itself at the most fundamental important levels comes through art. And if it's not blatant like it is here, it comes sometimes in a carrier wave or an embedded wave, like a Vanessa Villa's retrocausality message that comes through a song. So it doesn't, how did it get in there? Who knows? But it is part of the design of how the whole reality works. We can see it. We see it every day. Unfortunately for the people around us that just get excited before the Anderson Cooper show, they don't see it. So what's the next part? I wrote a note here that says, why do they put people in it? Okay, they expand. It's not just compartmentalization, what this movie presents. They go into areas, again, like where we go. It's incredible. We'll say, well, okay, let's just say the guy in San Diego built this part, and somebody built the facade of the rooms in, St. Pete, Florida, and then everything was put together. And it's like, well, nobody knows what they did in terms of the whole. Well, why put people in it? We're here. Why put people in it? And then somebody says, I forget which character says, because it's here. What? Like, the concept is, let me just continue reading my notes. It'll help jog my memory. We're both part of the system. Nobody wants to see the big picture. Okay, that's a little bit different. Well, okay, why put it here? Why put people in it? Why are we here? Why put people in it? And somebody says, because it's here. And they don't go farther than that, because there's no way the popcorn cruncher would understand. But it's a very interesting idea that once it's made, then it, like the way I interpret it, it becomes like an egregore. It takes on a life of its own. This cube could say be a corporation. It's like, well, why put people in it? Okay, so everybody assembles it, but now we're here in it suffering. Like, why does it have to be used? What's the point? And the message that comes through Cube is there is no point. It's like once the pieces are put together, and they don't go this far. I'm trying to extend it way out. Once the pieces are put together in this reality system, then it must be used. It like the way I interpret it. Again, there's no way they didn't spend more than 10 seconds on this. Popcorn crunchers would get up and leave. They wouldn't. They would think the people that wrote the movie are out of their minds. But it then must be used because it somehow takes on a life of its own, and it requires it to be used. It needs energy. It becomes like an egregore, a living thing, the way we think. Like go watch the movie Branded. Corporations are not just corporations. In this reality system, they somehow take on a life of their own. And we've talked about that before. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I'm not an expert at it. But some part of that I've never talked about is the corporate culture. And corporate culture kind of gives away that these things are egregores, that there is some sort of thought form demon assigned to what a corporation is, that somehow is alive in this reality. However you want to define that. I certainly don't know exactly what that means. But I was in a very large insurance company from 1990. Well, I was with a huge insurance company in 1992. I was only there 5 months before they laid the entire office off. So I got that culture, which was completely different from the other big insurance company I was with from 1992 or 1993 through 2002. 2002, I quit because I didn't want to live in California anymore. I had 6 years in California was enough. I wasn't going to buy any property out there or anything like that. I wanted to just come back to where my friends were and my family were. So I moved back to Pennsylvania, and I was with a company here for 4 months before I was fired. Because the corporate cultures were so different. I thought, oh, a cube job's a cube job. A sales job's a sales job. It's all the same. It was like being in a completely different world in this. It was a smaller company, but it was so toxic. The feel. Well, Matt, how could it have not have been a toxic in a bigger insurance company? I don't know. It just there was a lot of divisions. Our division, some of the people were were interesting, and just I don't know. People come together in different ways, but I can tell you, corporate culture is real. It is absolutely real. When you walk into a place of work and you just don't feel right, it is not. There's something to that. Get out as soon as this place. It was inevitable. I was going to be fired because I'm too intransigent. I wasn't able to mold myself. Some people would say I need to mold myself to what's going on here and be liked because I've got kids to feed at home and I need this job. And I was just like in conflict with everybody. And you probably know me. Someone's like barks at me, I'm gonna just bark back. So it didn't work. 4 months I was fired, but it was so, I'm telling you, this corporate culture was real. You'll know if you go to work somewhere, and it could be a farm. It's all, there's cultures everywhere. And it's not, sometimes in the interview you can get a real sense too, but you can, it's almost best to say, I'll work there for free for a day. The culture will be, the residents will be in line with you or it won't be. And when it's not, get out as soon as possible. It's a disaster when it's not. Unless you're not telling anybody to do anything. You got like Benny in Total Rico. I got 5 kids to feed, man. Thought it was 6. And then if that's the case, sometimes you have to suck it up and fit to the culture. But what's the point of corporate culture? But regarding Cube, I better stop and collect my thoughts, guys, and wrap this up. So if I'm going to say that, or I totally believe in the movie Branded, that corporations are thought form demons, are egregores, basically have, you could call, for lack of any other word, some sort of they become some sort of entity or living entity in this reality system. I can say that all I want. The only evidence I could ever have of that is the feel of corporate culture. I can point at, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence relating to everybody in Procter & Gamble that does their little assigned job, that if you back up far enough and look back at it, it is serving the overall reality not nilk system that isn't very good for a human being, for, let's just say, for a real spirited five-finger being. It's not very good. The whole reality system is designed to cut spiritual ties from real, I don't like the word human beings, it's a system word, from real five-fingered beings, which I'm told comes from the Native American. It's designed to cut you off and to move you into a lower place. In this day and age, down towards the digital, down towards the zeros and ones. That's the hell layer. That's the lower frequency. And everybody that works for it, that has put themselves on its frequency, it's perfect compartmentalization. They have no idea how they're serving it. Right down to from the guy or girl that works at the DMV, they don't know how they're serving it, but they're serving it. It's very simple. What the whole reality system here is designed to do to a five-finger being: move you lower, move you away from your spiritual self, or your rainbow bridge, if you want to bring in Norse mythology. I don't know if that really connects or not, but just popped into my head. Maybe there's some meaning there. But every little screw and every little bolt and nut and gear in the entire system doesn't know how it's serving the highest level of the org chart. And what we find, this relates to the concept of we never go far enough. Whenever we think something's a little crazy conspiracy, we come back a year later and it's way worse, quote, worse than we thought, or stranger than we thought, or much more outside the bounds of reality's bookends than we thought. And I think you could take that same concept and apply it here. We never go far enough. So surely, Matt, the people that work in Procter and Gamble, they make Crest toothpaste and Tide and stuff, and or let's just say a company that's more blatantly evil, like Pfizer or one of the or Glaxo, or one of these pharma companies. Let's just use that as the egregore. Most people, of course, they're doing their little job in their cube. They have no idea how they're serving the whole. And then, of course, Pfizer itself serves the whole reality system, or the reality itself, at the highest level of the org chart, at what I call the outer edge of the screen. So people say, well, surely, Matt, once you get to the CFO level, they know. They're going to all the Eyes Wide Shut parties, and they're in on it. And no, I don't think so. I don't think so. And, as I've said for years now, there are less and less people in on it than you would think, meaning they have full understanding of what they're doing for the reality system or for the screen. Even when you get to the CEO level, do they have an understanding of certain things regarding the way what's going on now, the V is being administered and all? Yeah, of course, at the CEO level. But even so, they don't have a full understanding of how the reality system works in terms of its general goal and what it's trying to do to a human being. It gets into that same, conversation we've had a million times about, like, well, what is Rush Limbaugh? What did he know? In his little bucket, he knew that there's no such thing as a presidential election in his bucket. But outside of that, he didn't know anything else, in my opinion, about how any other part of reality works. So this movie, the point is, the reason to bring it up again is this movie, if you want to look to art as truth, and I have no other way, a better way to put it here. Let's just give me this liberty. This movie confirms that. I know that's not the best way to put it. A movie doesn't confirm anything, but the movie, the way it presents it, saying nobody's in charge. No, there's nobody to point to. Headless illusion of a master plan. And, well, That's why, that's why I use, for lack of better words, the reality itself. What else, or the screen, or the not milk? I mean, what else? There's nothing with shape or form, And again, a Christian would say Satan. It's. I understand why they would say that. The role seems to be the same, of course. But perhaps some of the other side will say, well, that's why that's how the Satan concept came about. Or because that's you call it not milk, Matt, or the screen, they call it Satan. It's the same thing. Yeah, basically it is. So that's, I guess, enough on the compartmentalization. Some other themes that come from Cube. One, is pretty blatant. The fractal nature of reality. Cubes inside of cubes. Cube, you just move to the next layer. There's a cube above you, a cube below you. Some would say themes of multi-dimensions, multiverse. I took it more away as fractal. Just one layer to the next, the dream layer, what we understand dreams to be in the movie Inception, this life. Oh, this seems real. This must be the waking world. Then perhaps on the day of the system term death, or just call it transition or metamorphosis, it's like waking up from a dream. You're like, oh gosh. You'll just say it could be that simple. It probably will be that simple. Oh, that's what that reality was for? Oh, what a dream is all about. The moment you wake up, you know exactly what it was. You know its context. You know all about, what you were told in school about it, whether it's real or not. You'll go to your metamorphosis on what the reality calls death. It's probably going to be the same thing, just as simple. Oh, that's what that was. Oh, it all makes sense. Oh, it'll probably all make sense. Then you'll kick yourself for stressing out over everything. Just like in a dream, I don't know, few months ago, I was in that same dream. I thought high school grades were really important for some reason. I mean, look, anybody younger listening to this, you get your B's and get your B pluses and get out. Wherever it's applicable, learn something. But I mean, I was like stressing to get A's, like where you really have to study for hours, every little bit to get the A. I mean, what a waste. What a waste of time. Learn something. Read the chapter. If you're smart, you'll get a B. You don't have to get up at 5:30 in the morning to study and all the dumb stuff that I did. So I have these dreams where I'll go, just like, I guess it's like the dream in Risky Business. He goes into, maybe it really happened in Risky Business, the way they presented after he met Lana. I don't know, his life got flushed. Go to sit down, and then there's a test being passed out, and I haven't read one word. I don't know one bit of how to do the math equation. I have these dreams. And so the stress comes in the dream, then you wake up, oh, that was just a dream. Then you go through what they call death. Just the train just starts moving again. The train stops. You think, oh, that's all. That's all it was? With us? That's all it was? Oh my God, I stressed over this. I stressed over that. I should have just ripped all my clothes off and said, fuck it. In real life, you should have, yeah, pretty much. Just one step short of being arrested. Just do it in the privacy of your own, I don't know, a secluded area or something. Don't cause yourself misery. But like, well, why did I stress out over that? I should have just said, fuck it. Anyway, that's not good either, because then you end up, just somebody just walks off their job, and then they find 2 weeks later they can't put food on the table. Even in a dream environment, there seems to be rules because we believe it's real. There are rules here, and you kind of still have to play by the rules. But it's just the fractal nature of this movie, and I apply it to this reality in the 3 layers we can see. The 3 cube rooms here we can see. Well, we're in that room. That's the dream. Now we're in this room, and while we're in this room, this cube, it's this is real. This is real life. Then the next room, that's what's after death. But then it applies, well, what's after that? What's after that? There could be so many different layers. When I say a lot of smart people believe, people hate when I say that for some reason. I don't know any other way to say it. I'll just say it different. Me and a lot of people who I consider, who I would listen to, like, what's that movie? what's that commercial? Was it E.F. Hutton? Anybody underage, this case underage 40, isn't going to have a clue. Um, my broker, there'd be a crowded a commercial in 1978, a crowded restaurant. And my broker at E.F. Hutton says, and the whole room gets quiet, and even the waiter who's carrying the tray stops. He wants to hear, when E.F. Hutton speaks, people listen. So why the hell am I talking about that? It's because when these other people are like my, who I would consider to be spiritual E.F. Huttons, I'll listen. They would typically say that, many would say that you better be careful. Like, oh, death's the final thing. That's the final train stop. Maybe it will present itself like that, but, the final room of the cube might present itself as final, but there's all these other rooms. Every layer seems to want to get you stuck in that layer as believing that layer is all important. It's just something to keep in mind. So that's the fractal nature. And what was the last thing I wrote down here? The most in it. Okay. This is a spoiler for who is able to get out, if they're able to get out, how many are killed. If you want to watch it, I don't really think it spoils it. Knowing what I mean, it might spoil it for some. So you might want to turn me off now if you intend to watch the entire movie on YouTube. So I'll start with this last section and wrap it up. At some point, the 5 or so people that are kind of fighting with each other, they all bring different things to the table. One guy's strong. The girl is a mathematical wizard. She can do the different calculations in her head, and the other guy's kind of an asshole, but he helped, the guy that built the outer shell of it. They'll bring a little bit different to the table. The older blonde-haired woman is more of the conspiracy theorist to a degree, but they come across a mentally handicapped person, autistic, very much like Rain Man or Forrest Gump, but can't talk, no communication, just shakes, and he can make noises, and he's so most of the group seems to be good people. Like we have to care for him. We have to bring him with us. We have to take responsibility for him, take him into our care. Of course, at some point, he gets him in a little trouble or goes into a cube where they didn't test it, maybe because the spikes come out, and he's like, this guy's going to get us all killed. Let's leave him here. So they have that conflict. Let's leave him here, and I don't know exactly why that character is introduced, but I can only talk about the ending, where they end up fighting with each other so much, and in many cases backstabbing each other, and not really working as a good team. They all end up dead, except this person that's like Rain Man. Let's just call him Rain Man. They do, work together to a degree to figure certain things out about how the cube moves, how it shifts around. Some of them are still alive when they find this exit portal. One way out is not what it seems, but still they screw it up fighting amongst themselves, and he goes off into, you don't see what's outside the cube. It's not like a field and trees. It's just in one part they think they're out, but it's just all pure blackness. It's very creepy, the setting. And when she's hanging on the outside, maybe Matt, everything reminds you of the Twin Towers. Maybe I'm a little too much like that because I'm looking for it. But oh my goodness, when she's hanging out, they think they're getting out because the door opens out into absolute blackness. They lower her down. I guess they tie some of their clothes together to make a rope. They lower the older woman with the blonde hair down. She's hanging out off the side, and the facade, it absolutely, to me, reminds me of somebody hanging out the window. And you know what I'm going to say. And I think it's worked in without even anybody being aware of it. I think there is. I think when you'll see it, you'll say absolutely. It creates the feel of somebody hanging out the window. And I think most people would say, Matt, you're not just seeing things. That's there in this movie, even though this movie's 1997. How that got there, retrocausality, whatever, we'll talk about some other time. So, but at some point, there's a real portal out that leads to a white light. And the only person that gets out is the Rain Man character. And the only takeaway I could get from that is like the most innocent of all of them, only the one that was completely innocent was able to to get out. So everybody else, oh boy, except I would say that keep saying the blonde-haired woman who was kind of the conspiracy theorist. I don't remember her ever screwing anybody over, and the young girl who's good at math, she never directly screwed anybody over either. But they fight with each other, and they're certainly not anywhere near as innocent as the Rain Man kid who just tries to mind his own business and gets scared at times and yells out. And so the only body gets out is the most innocent, and there's a message there of some kind. But I don't know, relating to this reality itself, I don't think we have to be perfect to get out of here. I don't think anybody's saying we have to be completely purged and cleansed and drop all separation of the ego. And it's not me. I don't believe we would agree to have come here if we had to be absolutely perfect. Well, Matt, we're trapped now. I don't believe that either. Matt, you're not talking about the most important part of Cube, but we're trapped in this reality system. I don't believe that, and I'm pretty sure I don't believe things, or I don't believe things. That's not coming out right simply because I'm trying to make myself feel better, or I do believe things. I don't do believe things simply to make myself feel better. I don't think that's the case. I examine my inner knowing and what my inner tuning fork tells me. I believe they would like it to evolve into the cube. I believe there's something here that's very dark that tries to pull as many reality buttons and levers as it can to kind of keep hijacking the reality. I think there are still rules for the dark creeps. I think there's still some sort of a contract basis, if you will, for that they some sort of parameters they must operate inside. And if they break those parameters, we all immediately win. And I think the more we say that, the more you imagine that, the more you say that with me, I think then that just confirms that creeps were aware of the rules. And I've already considered you to be breaking them, although I'm not sure because I haven't examined the fine print of the contract. But it certainly seems that you've already broken them. So potentially we've already won, but I don't know. The creep's probably a little bit more familiar with the fine print of how they have to operate inside, the darkness inside the reality system. That I've never seen the contract, but they're it seems like you can just sniff it. It seems like they're pretty close if there are rules to breaking them. I don't. Cube is a very dark. If you want to apply that metaphor to reality itself, it's very dark, and I don't think we're nearly as trapped as this would present if Cube is presenting reality itself. Again, the most innocent that had no mental comprehension of what was going on got out, just walked away from the Cube. Everybody else that screwed each other over, fought with each other. So the one that had no chance of getting out, he didn't understand the numbers, didn't understand how to avoid the death traps, didn't understand how to get from one side of the cube to the other. That guy got out. And there's something being said there. So it certainly isn't impossible. So yeah, I think the reality hijackers are making it more difficult, but I don't think there'll ever be a situation where we're completely trapped. I think they want you to think that because if you believe that, you'll manifest that onto yourself. I believe that they certainly want, I don't watch David Icke anymore, and I know it's like, Matt, you're going to mention David Icke, Saturn Moon Matrix again? Yeah, well, he's the first one that I was listening to David Icke 5-6 years ago as that, this must be the highest level of truth. And I don't really, I'm not sure anybody can truly be working for us and fill Wembley Stadium. Okay. I'm not sure that goes hand in hand. So, 7 years ago, I'm watching, 8 years ago, whatever, I'm watching Alex Jones every day thinking that's the highest level of truth. Then you just graduate out of the farms and you get to David Icke and then this must be the truth. And then concepts I'd never heard before about Saturn, Moon, Matrix, recycling system. And, if obviously we've gone far beyond that. But if anybody is out there, whether they're working for whoever or they're completely trying the best they can. I think if they're telling people that there's a recycling system and they're trapped, I think the system would love that, and they would take that person to the top. I think if I started saying a bunch of horrible negative things, saying we're all trapped and screwed and this and that, and just kind of putting it into the guise of presenting truth, I think all the sub numbers would start going up, and the system would take me to the top, just like it takes Spike Lee to the top. And guys saying, well, you're 80,000 subscribers, Matt. Once you got over 50,000, you said yourself to be skeptical of anybody over 50,000. Look, I'll tell you, I just got the email. I'll show it to you sometime from Google. 350 subscribers this month on 80,000. And it's something like millions of minutes watched, millions, something like, maybe that was the annual number. I don't know, but it's like, it's millions of this and hundreds of thousands of this and 300 and some new subscribers. And you're telling that's not in a box. That's something the system wants to promote. 300 just by people reaching for their coffee and leaning on their keyboard. The amount of people here like hitting a button by mistake and emailing Aunt Ginny Matt's video. Just people spilling the coffee on their keyboard should propagate to more than 300 and some subscribers a month on an 80,000 base. So, Matt, you're trying to make that as a case as to prove that your message is not being promoted, but nevertheless you're at 80,000. Okay, there's still rules in this matrix. You know, I've been at this. If you go back to the Texas Shrug channel, Texas Shrugged book, where 90% of it was breaking down fake Bang Bang events. As a Russian Vids disciple, I never knew or corresponded with Russian Vids. It just Russian Vids was one of the original channels that I watched. Man, there was a lot of truth that came out of that. No doubt about it. Russian Vids played a role in my truth development. I don't know what Russian Vids is up to now, but I thank him for what he did for me and others. I watched, I don't know, maybe 7-8 years ago. To me, that was the biggest channel on YouTube for this type of thing. And, I would just getting involved in this, I would tune in, hear Russian Vids, and I'd say, surely this isn't fake. He's going to say this is fake? What? And then it's like, and then after you watch like for a month or two, it's like, these are all fake. He's right. What? What the hell is going on here? Then it starts, then you jump naked into the cold water and start your own journey for truth. So, why was I talking about? Oh, I guess ultimately I was saying the role of different people, and my subscriber number. So there's rules here. There's rules to this matrix, to this life, and I've been at this a long time. And well, Matt, why haven't they just booted you off? If you're getting if you're helping you and us collectively get close to the truth, I don't know. I don't know. Okay. I have seen when I've gotten way off track, like talking about the starving artists in North Tower, how that video, the system loved it and took it to 250,000 views. I don't know. I mean, I'm not promoted. 300 and some subscribers tells you I'm in a box, but it is true. How did the system allow me to even get here? Because the only answer I have to that is there are rules here. There are rules, and I kind of sense what they are. And I try to, at least using these types of platforms, I stay within the confines of the rules. And I truly believe if they break the rules or whatever the creeps are contractually bound or they are constrained in some way, then we win. I do believe that, and I've said that many times. And if something happens, we're ready to go to that anyway, as the primary platform, freevoice.io. I mean, who's gonna keep talking over here in code like I feel like an idiot. I can't even speak normally over here. But we have something, thanks to Rob, completely set up and way more robust in terms of people connecting with each other. It's not just a place for Matt and Howdy McCoskey to load videos. That's the start of it, but all sorts of other things and the social aspect for people to connect with other people, to post their viewpoints. It's going to be incredible. So, if this just goes away, it goes away. That's fine. That's fine. We're ready to leave it anyway. So, guys, thanks for, helping me talk through, it was good to revisit Cube again, put it that way. And I was like, wow. When I watched, James sent it to me, I watched the compartmentalization scene, and then I watched 25 minutes of the movie, other parts that I wanted to go back and see again. And just as always, seeing something with a set of eyes now is literally like completely different experience than it was just about 2.5 years ago. Incredible. So it's almost like I'm going to go back and rewatch everything with a new set of eyes. As the creeps take big bites of their big, greasy shit sandwich, the yin and yang is the number one rule in this reality system that cannot be broken. If one side moves forward, take a big bite, then the back end has to deliver to those like us who demand the knowledge and demand that the reality delivers the good if they're going to take a big bite of the shit on the other side. The yin and yang is the number one rule here, in my opinion, in this reality system that can't be broken. Thanks, guys.